Hello everyone, welcome to another tutorial, and today I'm going to show you how to create a basic 2D platformer shooter in GDevelop. Okay, so let me run immediately this project and I'll show you what I did here. Obviously I have my character, I can shoot enemies, but the cool thing, I can, as you see, I can shoot them in the air, I can shoot them while walking, and it doesn't really matter what I'm doing at the moment, it will just play the correct animation at the correct time. So let me show you how this is done. Okay, so here is my starting scene. Not much is going on here. I just have my list of objects here, assets I will use in this tutorial. And for start, I just obviously have no events here. I just have some platforms here, which just have jump through platform behaviors. And this is, as you can imagine, my hitbox, which has platformer character behavior and with some settings here. So the only thing we're doing here right now is basically this. We have our blue square jumping on these platforms. So this is where we start from. Also, I wanted to show you quickly what I set it up here. So as points, all the points are in the middle. And hitbox, I made this like small rectangle in the middle because I don't want enemies or platforms to interact with the whole area of this object, but just with this small rectangle here. Okay. As you can imagine, at some point I will make this square invisible and attach to it my sprite, my character sprite. But the way I created my sprite is a little bit different this time. As you can see, I have my player skin 1. Right, but there's something missing here, like the whole body is missing, which is not nice for him, but no worries, I have the other part of it right here. So as you can imagine, what will happen now is we will combine these two objects together, the position of my square, and we will animate them separately. So as you can see, each of these objects has its own animation. So I have my idle animation, my walk animation, jump animation, and shoot animation. In the same way, exactly in the same way, I have same things for my weapon as well. I have a little bit more animations here because those are different shooting animations I was just testing. But ideally, you would have still idle animation, walk animation, jump animation, and shooting animation, right? And these are variations of my shooting animation, which I can just swap places and they will work, right? And you know, the way I did it, like for this particular example, I just created everything in Illustrator. So I just created the full animation first, like, so this is idle, right? So these 5 frames. And then I just exported separately my character from my weapon. Basically, I exported each frame separately. And so this was the result, right? So if we actually run the project right now, what you will see is that they're doing idle animation, right? So now they're separate, but if we actually combine them together, you will achieve this result. Okay, so this is basically the logic behind these two sprites. So now we'll start to actually combine them together and see what will happen. Okay, so to start, I'll just bring these two objects here. So we have them in the scene. I'll just need to make sure that my player is under my weapon, so we can check that via Z order. And I'll just put something like, I don't know, 100 for my player and 101. Oops, 101 for my weapon. And so what we need to do now is to first of all create a new condition, which will be at the beginning of the scene. Okay, we hide our hitbox. So hitbox hide. And we add another condition. We leave it empty here, so this will happen always. We set the position of our player skin position equals to my hitbox. So player hitbox X, so horizontal axis, and on vertical axis, same thing, player hitbox Y. And as you can imagine, we should do the same thing for the weapon as well. So I'll just copy this and paste it, and just replace player skin 1 with weapon skin 1. Okay, so now what will happen is that we actually move our player, we don't see the hitbox, and it's just playing the idle animation there. Okay, next thing I want to do is actually move the camera as well, and so camera center X position equals to, and we will center the camera on hitbox, right? Even if it's invisible, we just set it there. So and I'll be using a lerp expression just to make the camera smooth. So lerp, so current camera position, camera X, we'll move it to hitbox X, and I think 0.02 is gonna be fine. Okay, everything is good. So now I'll just copy and paste this. Copy and paste. And by the way, there is a tutorial as well on how to do this. I will not explain it now, but if you are curious how to make your camera smooth, you can watch this tutorial. And in this case, we'll just need to replace camera center Y position to camera Y and hitbox Y. Okay, so now if I actually run it, the camera will follow us in a smooth movement. Okay, so that's cool. And another thing I want to start to add here is my enemy. So I'll just put my enemy here, anywhere, and I add a movement to this enemy. I'll just add constant movement to our enemy towards the position of our player. So I'll select my enemy, add force to move towards the position, and the position will be hitbox X, and copy and paste hitbox Y. So the speed is gonna be 100 and the force is instant. Okay, so now if I play it, you'll see the enemy starts to move towards the position of our object, our player. Okay, so that's cool, and it just will stop there with this weird effect. Okay, but that's fine. But you know, I actually want to spawn more of these enemies. So the way I'm gonna do is I'll just create spawn points. So this is just this red square. I'll just put them here, so they will spawn from these positions every X seconds, right? So once I put them here, what I can do as well is start a timer at the beginning of the scene. So I can say timer, start or reset the scene timer, and I'll call it spawn enemy. Okay, that's cool. And then I create a new condition, and I'll say timer value of a scene timer, let's say every 5 seconds. I think that's alright. And the timer name is spawn enemy. Okay, and let's add trigger once, because we want it to trigger only once every 5 seconds. At this point we restart the timer from 0, so timer start to reset timer, spawn enemy, and we now will create a sub condition, we'll create a sub condition with this for each object. Okay, because we want it to happen for each of these squares. So for each object, which is enemy spawn point, we will create so enemy create object, and which position you can imagine is enemy spawn point X and enemy spawn point Y. Also, let's make sure to kind of change the Z order of these new objects. So we'll make sure it's over these platforms. So these platforms should all be Z order 1. So we can simply say to change the order of our enemy Z order to be greater than 1. So let's just put 2. Okay, and then let's run this and see what happens. So we have this enemy which was already there, but we should be creating new ones. So you see one came from that point and one came from this point, and this will happen every 5 seconds. Okay, so we'll be having constantly spawning enemies. Okay, but no worries, at some point I'll show you how to kill them, so you know we make less of them. As the next step, I'll just add a simple thing. I just want to flip my character whenever I press left or right. So I'll just say key pressed, choose left, and left key is pressed. Then we flip both of these things. So player skin 1 flip, object horizontally, we'll say yes, copy and paste this, and just replace this with weapon. And we copy this full thing because we need to do the same thing for the other side. So when the key pressed and the key is right, okay, we do not flip any of this. Okay, so now if I run it, we should be able to flip as well. Okay, cool. So now we'll need to start to work with animations, right? So the first thing I'm gonna do is add another condition, and we will check if our player hitbox is on the floor. So is on the floor, okay. And the next thing I want to check is, and I create a sub condition here, if it's moving. So if it's on the floor and it's moving, then I change the animation of my player skin. Animation, change animation to equals to 1. Okay, now I create another subcondition, but subcondition of the subcondition, so player is moving. And one subcondition we will do here. So this is basically for when we press one of the arrow keys and our character starts to move, we need to tell what each of these two objects needs to do in different situations, right? So when it's on the floor and when it's moving, meaning it's walking, then we change obviously our animation of player skin to 1. But I want to make sure we add some more subconditions here, because there are different situations that might happen. So we could walk and shoot, we could stay and shoot, we can jump and shoot, we can jump and not shoot. So we need to predict all of those situations and make a bunch of subconditions to support that. So the first one, I'm gonna check if my weapon skin 1 animation, current animation equals to 3, and the animation number 3 is actually shooting animation, and I invert. So what I did here is, like, I'm checking if it's on the floor and it's moving, so meaning it's walking, but it's not playing the shooting animation, then they'll change my animation of the weapon, change the animation equal to 1, so then it's walking animation, right? So when we walk and don't shoot, our animation of the weapon and the player will be playing animation 1, which is the animation for walking. Okay. Another condition, we actually want to make it shoot, right? So then let's choose a key press. So key pressed, and I'll choose just X for this one. Make sure to add trigger once, because we'll just shoot once when we press that key. Then we, at this point, you can imagine, so we're on the floor, we're moving, but at the same time, if we press the X key, then we change the animation of our weapon to shooting animation equals to 3. And what we'll do what this combination will already do now is, like, if we are moving and we are not pressing X key, it will play the walking animation, but if we press X key, our weapon will play the shooting animation, but our character will still be playing the walking animation. And let me show you how that works. So I'm walking. Okay, now it doesn't change back, but we'll fix that later. I'm walking and shooting, right? So if I play it again and I just press X, nothing will happen because we are not walking. Now the shooting will only play if we are actually walking as well at the same time. Another thing I want to add here is actually to check whether animation is finished. So animation is finished. then we go back to weapon skin number 1. So we'll go back to walking animation of the weapon. Okay, so I'll just copy and paste this here. So as you can imagine, we will need to do the same things basically for when our hitbox is on the floor, but it's not moving. So what I'm gonna do here, I add another condition, bring it back 1 level up, so it's still a sub condition of is on the floor, and then I copy this and paste it here and actually invert it. So invert condition, so when it's on the floor it's not moving. Then I'll just change my player animation, player skin animation, change the animation to 0, which is my idle animation. Okay, so if we already run this, it starts to walk. When I press arrow key, and it stops when I release the key. There is something wrong with the weapon because it's still playing walking animation when I stop, because we didn't say what to do there. But what I can do already, I can walk and shoot. You see there's shooting animation going on if I press X, and it goes back to walking animation. So we need to add some more stuff here. Okay, so first thing, I'll add a new sub condition to my is not moving condition, and I will check if my shooting animation of player and shooting animation of the weapon is actually playing, and I invert them. So current animation equals to 3 and invert it. And the same thing I want to do for my so I copy and paste for my player. So player, so when those 2 animations of shooting are not playing, then we change back my current animation to 0, right? And we change player skin to weapon. So what we did here, if we're not moving on the floor, and if weapon and player animations 3 are not playing, then we switch back my weapon skin animation to 0, which is idle animation. Okay, so let's add another one. And obviously we need to make our player be able to shoot also when it's not moving. So key pressed X, sorry, okay, X, trigger once is true. So then animation of my weapon, change the animation equals to 3. So that's my shooting animation. Okay, now I'll add another one where we actually see if we check if the animation has been finished. So animation finished, then we change back our weapon animation to 0. So I'll just copy this one and I paste it here. Okay, so let me run it and see what's happening now. So I'm idle, I'm shooting, and I'm back to idle. You see the animation is working correctly now for the weapon. I'm walking, I'm shooting while walking, and I stop in and I can shoot. So these 2 situations are actually working right now. Now obviously I want my character to shoot also in the air, so now we'll need to do similar things for that situation as well. So I'll add a new condition and I drag it back for it to not be any subcondition of anything. So this is a main condition. So I'll need to search for advanced conditions. This one okay. And what this one will do is basically it will check if one of these conditions which we'll put here is true. So if one of them is true, then those things will happen. So the first one we want to check if our hitbox is jumping. Okay. Another one I want to know if our hitbox is falling. And another one we need to check that this object is not on the floor. So we say on the floor and invert condition. Okay. So if one of these things will happen, then we just simply change our player skin animation to animation number 2, which is our jumping animation. Okay. Now if I run this, let's see how that looks. So it jumps. There's something weird happening with our weapon, but because we didn't say what to do, what weapon should do, but the body is actually working in the proper way. Okay, so yes, let's add some subconditions to this one to handle our weapon, and it's going to be very similar to what we did here. So I'll just create a new subcondition, and what I will check here if this animation is playing. So if we need to make sure that so current animation equals to 3, so that's shoot animation, we invert it, right? So if we do this, then so if we are not shooting, if we are jumping but not shooting, we will change the animation of our weapon to the jumping animation as well. So change the animation equals to 2. Okay, so that's cool. Now we need to add another subcondition, and then again we need to make sure that we can shoot in the air. So key pressed X. Okay, trigger once. It's true. Then we change our animation of the weapon to shooting animation. So change the animation equals to 3. That's our shooting animation. And obviously we need to switch back the animation to the previous one when the animation, this shooting animation, is over. So basically we do the same, right? So we check whether it's finished. Animation has finished. Then we can just copy this one. So we'll change it back to jumping animation of the weapon. Okay. So that's cool. So now this should all work. So the animation are synchronized. I can shoot when I'm idle and it goes back. I can shoot while walking and it goes back. And I can shoot in the air. So you see, like, each of these are now animated separately. And the body behaves in one way depending where we are. So if we are walking, if we are, you know, falling and stuff like that. But the weapon also behaves differently depending on the situations. It shoots in the air, it shoots on the ground, and those two animations are synced very well and do exactly what I want them to do. So now let's go to the fun part. So let's start to create some particles and bullets and start to kill these enemies because they're so annoying and I can't do anything about them at the moment. Okay, so in order to make our character shoot something, I have these few objects here. So I have bullet object, which is just a bullet, and one behavior I added here. So let me just remove this and add it again. So the behavior I added here is destroy when outside of the screen, and I will give it 1000 pixels margin. So one thing I want to make sure is that we don't have you know, millions of bullets flying around our game when we run it. It's bad for performance, so I'll make sure I just destroy this object when it's outside of the screen with the 1000 pixels range. It's very useful and great for performance. So that's one. I have a couple of particle effects here which I created for this. So what I have here is you can take a look how they are made, or take a look at this tutorial as well about particles. But basically what I have here is I have bullet trail. So this will be the effect which will follow our bullet. We'll shot that as well. Then I have enemy kill. So this is basically this one. So this is kind of some sort of simple explosion when we hit an enemy. And this is shot effect. We'll create this effect, this shot effect. The position of our weapon is some sort of explosion. So these two are actually similar. I'll just change the colors, right? So at the moment, if you just run it, it will just run once a few particles. Yeah, you see there, red. So now we need to attach those as well. So first of all, like, you know, I have this animation of the shooting, right? So this is the one, and you see the actual shot happens in this frame, right? So I don't want to create a bullet or any effect before that. I have some sort of like a charge here, right? So I want this shot animation happen only on this frame, right? So this is the frame number 5. So let's see how to do that. So I'll just add, so I will not shoot a bullet exactly at the same time when I press the X key, but instead I'll create one condition for all of these, right? So let me create one, and this is not some condition of anything, it's a main condition. And first of all, we need to check if the animation of the weapon, the current animation is actually 3, so this is a shooting animation. And also we will need to check which frame it is at the moment. So weapon skin, frame, current frame, and let's say 4. That's one before we actually have this pullback, right? So I will not put 5, but I will just put 4 here. Should work. And don't forget, put trigger once, otherwise we will shoot many bullets at the same time. Trigger once. So at this point I want to create like this explosion effect at the point of my weapon, but I need a specific point for my weapon. So I need just to go here, right, and edit points, right? And I have already created a point here called bullet, but let me show you how it's done again. So I can click this plus, I can call this point bullet. I will use the same points to create a bullet, actually, not just effect. It creates here always a 0, 0 of the object. I just can drag it here somewhere, and that should be alright. Okay, so close, and we know that we have that point. So now I'll create an explosion at that point. So create a shot effect, create at position of that point. So weapon skin 1 dot point x, and the point is bullet. Sorry, point x bullet. I'll copy and paste this here and just change x to y. Okay, so that's cool. And I also want to change the Z order of this to make sure it's on top of my weapon. And our weapon, I remember it was 101, so shot effect, Z order, I'll set it 102, just on top of our weapon. So what will happen now is that every time we shoot, we have this particle effect appearing there, okay? And we don't need to destroy it at any point, because my particle effect, shot effect, is set up to actually delete when it's out of particles, and I have maximum of 10 particles in my tank. So once this particle has done its animation, it will be literally deleted from the scene. So I don't need to worry about the performance here. So now comes the interesting part. So now we need to shoot actual bullet. And to do that, we need to check a few things, because obviously we need to shoot it in the right direction depending when where our character is rotated. So we need to check either it's flipped or not. So we will check if our weapon skin is horizontally flipped. So if yes, then we obviously create our bullet object. So create object at position of that point we created. So weapon skin point x in its bullet, and same thing here. We'll just change x to y. Okay. I also want to add a Z order to this, because I want the bullet to appear on top of the weapon. So we can just literally say bullet Z order equals, we can use the same of our shooting effect, right? So let's use 102. Actually, let's move this explosion a little bit up. I want it to be on, like, actually on top all the time. So let's just put it to, I don't know, let's put 200. That's gonna be safe. Okay. Next thing, we need to actually flip our bullet as well, because if the weapon is flipped, we need to flip the bullet as well. So flip horizontally, yes. Okay, so that's another thing need to happen. Another thing needs to happen is actually we need to add some force to this bullet. So bullet. and we will add force angle. So the angle is minus 180, so it will shoot exactly to the left. And speed we can do like 900, and we add permanent force, so it will just, you know, permanently fly to the left. Okay, so that's cool. We can check the progress so far and see if that works. So obviously if we do it here, the only thing will happen is just this particle effect, because the new conditions we added, they're valid only for the left side for now. So if I turn this way, we should see our bullet fly. Okay, so there's a really nice progress. No worries, we'll do it for the other side as well. It's going to be easier because we just need to copy paste this, but I'll just want to finish this, you know, this whole condition here. Okay, so the only thing I'm missing here is actually that bullet trail effect. So that's a particle effect I created here, bullet trail, and I will use the same logic as the bullet, right? So I'll just create a new object. I can just copy this and paste it here and change bullet to bullet trail. I can copy this as well and say that the order of bullet trail is gonna be actually, I don't know, 202, something like that. So it's just on top of our bullet, right? Or our shot effect on top of our bullet. And I'll also add some force to it, so it will follow our bullet as well. So, you know, same thing, add force, paste it here. I'll make it a little bit slower, so it will fly a little bit behind our bullet. So I put like 700, and this changed to bullet trail. So now it should create a really nice effect if I shot to the left. Okay, that works. Cool. So next step, it's very simple. So we will copy this whole block and paste it. And we say when the weapon skin is not flipped, so then we need to change a few things here. So we still create the object, right? So then we still set the Z order, but we're not flipping it. Okay, so that's the first change. The second change is actually the angle to which we shot. So this time the angle is going to be 0 because that's going to be to the right. So we still create the trail effect. We still, you know, put it on this Z order. But then again, here we just changed minus 180 to 0. So now I think we are able to shoot in both directions. So let me check that. We can shoot here and we can shoot there. We can actually shoot in the air and we can shoot while walking. So, you know, most of the job is done. That's very cool. But let's finally start to kill these annoying enemies. So first of all, I add a new condition here as a main condition. And, you know, before destroying them, let them kill us, right? So I want to make sure that if enemy is in collision with player hitbox, and this triggers once, and this is trigger once is true, then we just restart the level. So pause and start a new scene. The current scene will be restarted. So and that's cool. So they can kill us now, but you know, let's make sure that we can kill them as well. So for each object, because we need to check whether this happens for each of our enemy. So we choose enemy here. Where is it? Enemy. And the condition is gonna be if the enemy is in collision with bullet. And make sure this triggers once. So first of all, we will delete our enemy. So enemy, delete this object. Finally, we can do this. Obviously, the bullet should be deleted as well. Next thing we also need to make sure is that we create that particle effect. So enemy kill, create at the position of our enemy, X, copy and paste this, and enemy Y. I also want to create this explosion effect at the position of our bullet. So so shot effect, create at the position of bullet. So bullet X and bullet Y. That's cool. And also I want to stop this trail effect because I don't want it to go further. And you know, if we just delete it, I'll show you what will happen. So then if we delete bullet trail, we will achieve a really bad visual effect. So you'll see now. So if it will just delete, you see it just disappeared immediately. I want it to still play but just stop. So let me remove this and I'll say bullet trail flow. We just set the flow of the particles equals to 0 at this point. And that's basically it. So let me run the scene and see if everything works. It should everything work. So I can walk, I can shoot while walking, I can shoot while just standing, I can kill the enemies. That's cool. It's all works. The effects are working pretty well. Obviously they can kill me and restart the level. And you know, so I think we actually did everything we needed to do for this. So then again, this is just a basic way to do these things. Today you've learned how to separate sprites and combine them together in order to play different animations depending on what you need to do. And you can actually start creating your own shooter in GDevelop. So I hope you found this video useful and I hope you liked it. If you liked it, please subscribe if you didn't subscribe yet. Like this video, comment, and follow me on Twitter, Discord, and see you next time for another video.